Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you to master your mindset and maximize your money. I'm your host, Dr. LaNee Javette. Today's topic is serious. New reports are showing declining IQ scores and falling literacy levels among young people. Excuse me. That means more students are struggling with reading, comprehension, and critical thinking. This is not just about school grades. This is about the future workforce. This is about contracts, credit, entrepreneurship, and financial independence. If you cannot read and comprehend, how do you build? How do you protect yourself? How do you grow wealth? How do you sign contracts? How do you read to your babies? How do you do anything? So we're going to talk about that today. And I am joined by there's four of us total, but three amazing queens for a total of four. Aisha Verzi, financial expert, Nomalanga, marriage, motherhood, and money expert, Dominique Morgan, nurse and real estate expert. IQ. I don't even know what my IQ score is. And now that we're having this conversation, I feel like I need to know it. I was talking to Dr. Boyce the other day, and he was talking about his IQ. Do you guys know what your IQ score is? Anybody know what their IQ score is? Okay. When you hear declining IQ and literacy, what's your first reaction when you hear that it's declining? Anybody? Dominique, I'll start with you.
Well, for me, I think it's because we're so overwhelmed with things that don't matter, right? We're working to make money. Parents are super busy. And the time that we had, like back in the day, grandma was there, right? We had our village that was able to support and help and bridge those gaps. And so we don't have that anymore because everybody is working. Oftentimes there's a one-parent household. And there's just nobody there to support the kids because ultimately it's not just the teacher's responsibility, it's ours. And so I can see how we could possibly have that decline because our focus is on other things. And it's not necessarily making sure that our family structure is intact, including, making sure our children's education and their literacy and their math scores and, levels are good.
Okay. What about you, Aisha? When you hear declining IQ and literacy, what's your reaction?
Yeah, same thing. It's, no time. People are so busy doing other things and not spending time to educate their children because really we're the primary educators of our children, especially in the beginning stage where their literacy is set, where they understand and they start to comprehend. It's really 100% on us. The society is just a backup to help us, but we are the number one priority. But if we don't do it, then it's easy for things to fall in the cracks because nobody's monitoring and course correcting. So that's my first thought.
Okay. What about you, Nomalanga? When you hear declining
this is actually a topic that I've really dug deep into because I've been, as a parent, our youngest are 9 and 5, and I've really been aware of the fact that they use digital gadgets so much. So I really dug deep into the subject, and it actually is causing a dumbing down of our children. Even us adults, we're dumbing down a bit because we rely so heavily on technology. But in looking into the research a little bit more, it's not just the digital overload, which is if you just Google it, that's one of the first things that comes up. But also the way that children are existing now. Before we used to be required to read. I remember with our older two, I had them read a lot more than I find that the younger ones are. They're not reading as much. And the same goes for adults. Some adults haven't read anything since they left college, if they went to college. And then the third thing is our food. We're not eating real food anymore. And actually, a lot of the food that we eat is brain food. And if you're not feeding your body properly, it actually does affect how you think and how you function. So I'm not speculating. There's something that I'm like almost obsessing over because I'm thinking about throwing all gadgets away when I just kind of dug deep into how much they're affecting children more so than adults, but children very much. And then there's another one where, I mean, it's not entirely related to the dumbing down, but also their behavior. I remember seeing this video of when parents would take gadgets away from the children and they'd bang their heads and throw these outrageous tantrums. And it's because they're actually really, really attached and addicted to technology that when you take it away from them, they literally act like a crackhead, fiending for that thing. So it's actually a very, very serious topic, as you said in the beginning, LaNee.
I love it. All right, well, let us know in the chat when you know that this report around declining IQs, scores, and literacy is happening among young people, Gen Z, I believe to be specifically. What are your thoughts? We're going to go to our first video, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Calling this a social emergency. Looking at this image, this is disturbing. This image says that neuroscientists warn that Gen Z is the first generation to have lower IQ scores than their parents. And they're blaming heavy reliance on technology and all of that as the issue. And, I guess experts are calling this a social emergency. Gen Z, again, according to neuroscientists, is the first generation to have a lower IQ score than their parents. And they're blaming technology. Technology is an amazing tool. Artificial intelligence is an amazing tool. All of these things at our disposal are amazing. They should enhance what we do. They shouldn't replace who we are. See, if we become so reliant on things that are exogenous, then our body all of a sudden starts to atrophy. We start to lose the capacity to do the things that we were designed to do. Again.
All right, so I'm gonna add to what he said. Researchers indicate that for the first time in over a century, so this is the first time in over a century that IQ scores among younger generations are showing a decline, reversing the long-standing Flynn effect, where each generation scored higher than the last. This decline is not universal, but is observed in studies. And some of what Nomalanga said played into it. I'm not going to go through the pandemic impact on young children. Gen Z and the reversal of the Flynn effect ends the rising of IQs. And the author's like, well, what the heck is the Flynn effect? The Flynn effect is the long-term substantial increase in average IQ test scores observed across generations throughout the 20th century. First identified by researcher James Flynn, it suggests that each generation scores higher in IQ tests than the previous one, primarily driven by improvements in education and nutrition and environmental complexity, and rather than a rise in innate intelligence. We're not winning in any of those areas on Earth right now. We're not winning in education. We're not winning in nutrition. We're not winning in environmental complexities. What do you guys think are some things that we can do to help our children? And the other thing I was going to tell you guys was Gen Z is, I forgot, 1997 to 2014, I think it is the age range. So they're like 14 to 29-year-olds ish. What do you think we can do to help that generation first before you even drop down to the generation beneath? The computers are raising the babies under 14. But let's just from 14 to 29, how can we help them? Aisha, I'll start with you.
Great question. I remember when my kids were born, and I just knew that the way I can help them was to be present. That was the number one thing I knew, to be present in their just growing up, learning and understanding what needs to be done. And then when they started school, or even before they started school, we were very involved, very, very involved in the local school program. In the library, we're there literally as if we lived in the library. We were reading, story time. And then we read several books, but we're there, right? And then we went home with more books that we have to return back because they have check marks for all the books that they've read. And they have an award at the end of, whatever time, even as babies. So even as a child that doesn't know how to read, amount of books that we read, we get credit for it. So we were in the library literally practically every day because I was a stay-at-home mom, because that was so important to me that I stayed home, raise my kids. And I know it's not going to be possible for everybody. I understand that very well. But I also chose, when they went to school, to teach them at home part-time, meaning while they're in school being taught by their teachers, when they came home as well, I made time to reiterate what they've learned and kind of relearn it with them as well, so that I can reteach them, because they're children and they need to understand that it's important. So even if parents are not home, you can make time to teach your children, say, okay, what have you been learning? Let's unpack this together, and then let's read a book together. This were the things I think we did. So I hope that people can implement those things too. No matter how small it is very impactful that you spend the time and carve that time out to study with your children. They see you studying, they study with you. That is what I think would be the best advice. Carve out the time to do it with your kids.
So, Dominique, what do you think? What do you think are some ways that we can help? And we're talking about, again, they are 14 to 29. So how are we reaching people 14 to 29?
So I have a 14-year-old. So I think that, we have to get back to the basics. And what Aisha was saying, like, I remember back in the day where they used to have the book it programs, right? So you read a book and then you get rewarded with a pizza. They don't have those type of programs anymore. We need to incentivize them, right? And I know that it's like they're supposed to do it, it's for their benefit, but we're missing it, right? And so if we incentivize it, maybe I think that would help. Because I will speak even from my son. I don't see him reading a bunch of books. Back in the day, also, kids didn't have tablets; they had books in their hands oftentimes. So when you see a kid, you will see a kid with a book. You don't see that anymore. Like, even for me, like, I like books, so I want a physical book. I don't want an audio book. I want a physical book. I have my own mini library, but the children are doing it. Even my son, I can speak for him. They're not reading anymore. And I think that we just have to get back to the basics and help them to understand that the magic is in the book. The answers are in the books. I know they think they can get everything instant. And I also believe that their attention spans are not as great because of the fact that they have this instant gratification. You have social media right there. All I got to do is type it in ChatGPT. But I just really think that we have to start showing them, reading with them, making it a priority, and maybe bring those incentives back into the schools so that people will fall in love with reading. Reading is awesome. Reading is magical. Like, even when you watch a movie, the book and the movie are totally different. You get more details in the book than you do in the movie. And so just finding ways to maybe incentivize them, especially when you have kids that are in high school, and help them make it fun, so maybe those are some things that we can do. But I feel like it's so far gone. Like, even when you see infants that are not even walking and talking, and they have tablets, and it's like they don't even know that they exist, and they have a tablet. It's really kind of scary. So I really think that we have to get back to those basics of, finding ways to make reading fun, library programs, and magnifying those type of things to get people interested in reading again.
Okay, I like all of that. So Generation Z, I want to say it again in case I got my years wrong. Born approximately 1997 to 2012. So their age ranges are 14 to 29-esque. They are the first fully digital native generation, characterized by their always-on connectivity, high social climate consciousness, and pragmatic, financially focused career views. As of 2026, they are roughly age 14 to 29, highly valuing authenticity, diversity, rapid visual communication, often use social media as their primary information source, which we know don't be right, but that's another conversation. Noma, what would you say are some things that we can do to help reach this generation?
Yeah, I think it's kind of shifting our culture backwards. It's going to feel like it's going backwards, back to the basics, as the two ladies said, where you're kind of bringing us back to a culture of reading. And this isn't on just the kids; it's the parents. You know, I've sometimes watched us or even other families. You walk into their home and everybody's they're not even interacting with each other. Everybody's looking at their tablet or phone or whatever. So we do have to, even if you don't do it full time. I know Aisha was saying that she was a full-time mom. When I was a full-time homeschooling mom, I always used to say to the working moms that even if you work, you can homeschool part-time. It doesn't always have to be 100%. And again, the time that you do spend with your children. I mean, like I said, I've been digging deep into this, and your kids will fight you. That's just a fact. They will fight you. But you have to be the parent. You have to be the one who puts your foot down, because you know that in the long run, this is something that will benefit them. So yeah, we now have gadget detox. Sometimes it's just an hour, sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's a whole day, half a day, whatever it is, but we do have gadget detox. And then you have to replace that gadget detox with something. We have a family game night where we play chess and other games. So no gadgets, just games and interacting with each other. You don't again, it's just once a week that we do this. I mean, invite friends over. But again, it's just kind of rebuilding this culture of getting off the tablets, getting off the TVs, getting off everything, interacting with each other and doing things that stimulate our brains. Then we also reinstate wellness. Get out in the sun. That's another thing. People literally have vitamin D deficiencies because we don't go out in the sun. I'm guilty of this. So we used to have at least 2-3 nights, evenings, like at about 5-6 o'clock, just before dinner, we go for like a 3-kilometer. It only takes about 30 minutes. The whole family take a walk together. Again, you get some sunlight. If you can't do it in the morning because you got to work and school and all that, do it in the evening. Get some activity, get some sunlight. It's actually very important, even for your mood. And then I heard you talking about Dominique, about those programs with the books. You can actually do that program at home. We did it. We used to, with our older daughter, she's 20 now. She used to get paid for reading, and she just got into it. It got to a point where we reduced the amount because she was reading so much. It's just like, you owe me, you owe me. And yeah, pay them $1 for a book. Or, I mean, I'm old now. That was 20 years ago, and my daughter was little, but you get it. Whatever the going amount is, or the going rate is now, pay them so that it makes sense and they look forward to it. And then the other thing is, I learned this when I was homeschooling, is follow your children's interest. People don't just read to read, they read things that they're interested in. And every child, every person has something that they're really interested in. And if you buy children books, like our kids go through these phases, they go through Batman, then there's Sonic, then there's all these things. So as long as you're following their interests, they will actually read because they want to know more about whatever it is they're interested in. So it is just retooling your family life. It's introducing a different culture than the one that we're currently in. And you can do it within your home. And hopefully, if the school system's not doing it, you're doing a better job at home than they are.
I agree with everything that you guys said. I think when I look back, I wish I wouldn't have introduced the phone to my son so soon. So one of the things I would recommend is holding back on technology, introducing kids to technology so soon, giving them a phone too soon, introducing to technology, it opens up a world that some of they're just not ready for. I was talking the other day to someone, I can't even remember the gist of the conversation, but I was like, kids don't play outside no more. Like, what happened to riding your bike down the street and playing outside, meet somebody up at the park and playing kickball or hide and seek or going over to somebody's house? Now it's games. Like, they don't even have to go and interact with each other anymore. They can just get online and play the games with each other. So there's no interaction like this or conversation for dialogue. So you don't have to use your words. So you're hiding. So you're not engaging. That's causing no one to have any critical thinking. I think somebody's talking. I think that was our producer that was talking about ChatGPT. Now, you don't even have to think. You just have to come up with the concept and it does the thinking for you. I don't think they teach cursive writing anymore, which is patience and skill and motor skill. Like everything that caused us to have to think know how to communicate, show up is being stripped away, right? We don't go outside, we don't play. Kids have a laptop. Like I think Dominique said, people are rolling around with strollers with 6 months old, 1 year old with a laptop in front of them. They can't touch it. They can't do nothing. Kids can use a laptop before they can do anything else, or an iPad. Like we've gone to a place where we are letting technology raise our kids, and if all they have to do is go online and watch it, they don't have to learn it, right? And so I think that is one of our biggest issues. My son is 25, and I watch him sometimes, just like everything is FaceTime. Like they talk on FaceTime, they stay on FaceTime, his friends at work on the FaceTime. I'm like, when do y'all shut that down? Like y'all don't like when do you be by yourself? Are you always talking to somebody? It's the craziest, weirdest thing. I'm not that friendly, so I don't even want to talk to that many people. I definitely don't want you to be seeing me everywhere I go and all the things that I do. But anyways, let's keep going. We're gonna keep going. Let's go to our next video.
That is your fault. That's not the teachers. It's not their responsibility. They are with your kid for maybe 1-2 hours a day. You are with them for multiple hours. You are a blood relative. And when they were very, very young, you likely sat down with them while they just watched TV or while you did something else. But just remember, every time that you just handed them a tablet, handed them a phone, or just turned on the TV, you could have just as easily turned it off, picked up a book, and started reading it with them. You can still do that right now. It is literally not too late. But what we're not going to do is keep complaining at these teachers like their job is to raise your child. You're setting your kid up for failure, not them. Teach your kid to read.
All right, so you made a couple of points. Do you think this is a school system issue or a parenting issue? Dominique, I'll start with you. Does your child's ability to read and write and have an IQ, is that the school's responsibility, or what you think?
No, I don't think it's the school's responsibility. It's your child, it's your responsibility. So my youngest is again 14, and he was struggling in school. And so I knew that there were barriers, and I knew what the problem was. The problem was his parents, me and his dad. We were the problem. We were working. I met my husband when I was in college, and so I was free in college. But then when you get out of college, now you have, you're working full time. At the time I was working in the hospital, so I'm gone for 12 hours. And then when I got off, I was tired. Well, my son was behind. And so automatically the school is just going to say, oh, well, he has a learning disability, or he has, it's something wrong. And for me, even if it's something wrong, the child is still capable of learning. So what I did was I did my due diligence, and I took him to all kinds of specialists, developmental specialists, to make sure that there's no underlying issue. And then when I realized that there's no underlying issue, there's nothing going on, we made the decision to homeschool him. Because again, that is our responsibility. That's our child. If we kept him in school, what does that look like for him? So then we're complaining about what's happening in school when we see what it is, and we have to take accountability for our actions. It was his parents. It's our responsibility, and it was our fault. So what we did was, because we were not capable of homeschooling him ourselves, we hired a retired teacher that homeschooled him. And we told our son that we will homeschool him until he was ready to go back to school. So he was homeschooled from 1st to 4th grade. The summer before 4th grade, he was like, I want to go back to school. And as mom, I'm nervous. Like, you sure you want to go back to school? Because homeschooling was going so well for him. It was one of the best things. And granted, my husband fought me about it, because he was like, what about socialization? It wasn't common when I did it. It was not a thing that people were doing. And I was like, I'm telling you, I really feel like he needs to be homeschooled. After the first 6 months, my husband realized the difference, because he was able to get one-on-one attention. I was able to create the curriculum for him. I was able to help him. It gave me some kind of structure, and he did tremendously better. Now, he went back to school 5th grade. He did well. Now in high school, my child is an AB student. This was a child that struggled academically that they tried to write off. But because we understand that the responsibility is ours, the parents, it's not the school. When we identify stuff, we have to address it. And I know that it's not ideal for everybody. It wasn't ideal for me to physically homeschool my child, but I was able to find resources and find people that were able to assist me. So now I'm just creating a curriculum. I have friends that were educators that will give him standardized tests to see where he was if he was missing anything, and we bridge the gap from there. But ultimately, your child is your responsibility. Your child's education is your responsibility. And again, I know that sometimes it's difficult because we're overwhelmed working and different things like that. But that's why community is so important. My community came through and helped. They helped academically, the people that were educators that can tell me, hey, his comprehension is good, but he's missing some pieces right here. So you want to identify, you want to hone in on these things right here to get them better. Our children are our responsibility. They are not the school's responsibility. The school is just an addition to what we're supposed to give our child.
I like that. Does anybody want to add anything to that before I move to the next question?
Yeah, I was gonna say that most parents, and I remember I used to get slammed for this, most parents don't put their kids into school for education. It's somewhere they can put them so that they can go to work. That's a lot of people's realities. They have nowhere to put their kids while they go to work. And this guy was like, well, you spend most of the time with your kids. Some people actually don't. And I remember there was this term that was called latchkey kids. It was kids who came home to nobody, and they basically came and they found food and they occupied themselves and try not to burn the house down until parents come. So I think sometimes people don't understand people's lives, So no, it's not always the parent that has the most influence. And I did really try to talk a lot, this was, years ago, a lot about restructuring lives to try and accommodate family, because what was happening was that everybody was so busy trying to work and make the money that they just threw everything else away. And this is kind of the result right now that we're dealing with. It's not just about kids being dumbed down. It's also kids with no manners and no home training, not having basic skills because nobody's there to teach them. They had to just teach themselves everything. The last thing I do want to say is I don't think that we should throw away technology altogether. We just have to use it as a tool rather than as a substitute for parenting. Because you can really use technology in amazing ways. There's lessons free classes, courses, interactions, and things that you can get. I mean, we're right here on an online show. That wouldn't be possible because we're in the four corners of the world and technology is making it possible. So I just don't want to throw it away altogether, but you do need that intervention from the parents.
I love it. So go ahead, Aisha.
I was going to say that it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. And many years ago, there was an interview that was made, and those in Silicon Valley that created all these gadgets, their kids don't use it. Their kids are not allowed to use it in all of their schooling. So I said, oh, if your kids don't use it, why are my kids going to use it? That was my cue right there to refuse my kids to use. My son got his phone when he was in high school. When he got to high school, and it was only to text home that school was over or something was wrong. That's it. Couldn't do nothing else. He was mad at us. He pushed back. We said, nope, you're not going to get access to anything else. Because I heard that interview many years ago that said that their kids didn't have these gadgets. Their kids went to school like the old days where they learned, they used their hands, they studied, no gadgets. So why am I going to give my kids the gadgets? So this thing happens because of that. Sometimes we forget that we are the primary teachers of our children, and the school and the gadgets are just a tool or extension to help make things more maybe more creative, whatever, but just extra. They shouldn't be the main focus. So I agree with the ladies as well. And I just want to add that in that listening, Silicon Valley does not allow their kids to use any of these gadgets. None.
Okay. As we're having this conversation, we're talking about the parents, the parenting. You got to be there. You got to be present. We talked about work. We talked about time. I don't want to say that but let's just say there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of single family homes in the Black community, because now let's make it personal about us. Do you think that this is happening more in our communities, being that more parents are working? If it's the single family home, the mom's definitely working. She might be working 2 jobs. If it's a mother and a father, most likely they're both working unless she stays home. But when we hear about IQs falling and failing, how much of this do you think is happening in the Black community, and why? I will start with you, Noma.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is true. I think I said it in another show recently that another thing that I dug deep into was what was called the preschool to prison pipeline, and that affected Black families more than any other communities in America. And it was because, unfortunately, oftentimes one of the markers was coming from a single parent home. And again, it was that latchkey kid who was basically raising themselves. But like I say, I love stories about restoration. There are ways to do things differently, and that is where you focus on family, extended family, which is again another reason why I talk a lot about healing our relationships. People like to say, well, why can't everybody just live with everybody else? Because people fight and they're dysfunctional and all that other stuff. So if you put auntie, uncle, grandma, and everybody in the house and the idea is to help each other, it can just be a toxic mishmash of stuff. So it's very important for us to heal our relationships and our families. But that's one of the solutions is multi-generational living. I think I say this at least once a week because it actually does help. We're going back to the village, we're going back to community-based living. No woman was ever, no matter what you say, even if her man ran out on her, no woman was ever meant to raise children by herself. Her mother's supposed to be there. Her brother's supposed to be there to be a male or a father figure to her child. Grandpa's supposed to, there's supposed to be other people. And if she's just there by herself, it's not going to be the best results for her or her children. So that's one of the things that I think can really restore. I love also stories about, sometimes you'd hear about the high school coach who'd be taking on the boys and training them and instilling values in them and things like that. So I think, yes, the answer is yes, definitely we suffer more, but I like to focus on the fact that there are solutions and there is a way to restore our children without only focusing on, which I think everybody knows. I think the most important thing is to have a mother and the father in a home, but that's not always possible for everybody. So we should look about the next best thing, which is a more family-oriented, community-oriented upbringing for a child.
Yeah, they use that preschool to prison pipeline based on the scores, right? So they're looking at household, looking at scores. So this IQ thing, if we don't see it, trending, we can already kind of assume this is what's going to happen to you. This is where you're going to go. They're looking at it based on, your home dynamics. And then of course the schools don't help, right? When we start talking about, is it a school system or home system? The school is not there to teach your child. That teacher is there to get a paycheck. You have some that are passionate. They really want to see your children learn, but a lot of them will write them off as soon as they see the testing not being done right. If they can't control the child, get to the child, get them to, be still, they'll try to put them on drugs. Like all of this affects their ability to learn, their IQ, whether they like school, whether they want to read or not, if they're embarrassed to read, if the teacher calls them out or talks bad to them crazy. So sometimes school can hurt more than help. Let's go to our next video and then we will keep this conversation going.
Bad or very hilarious, but this is actually crazy. Illinois has 24 schools where not a single child can read at a grade level. Illinois State Board of Education schools with 0 students scoring proficient on the IAR or the SAT in 2024. These are all the schools that are listed right here, and you see that number right here, students proficient in reading, 0. Like, bro, what the heck is going on, man? Kids cannot even read on the first grade level. Think about that for a second. Do you know how sad that is? Kids in Illinois cannot read at a first grade level. You notice how the school district name for most of them are in CPS, which means most of these schools are from Chicago. I'm not even surprised about that, to be honest. I mostly blame the parents because you telling me we have 24 schools in Illinois where kids cannot even read at a grade level, not even a first grade level. And I blame the parents because, like, what are y'all parents doing? Like, y'all not teaching y'all kids how to read? To be honest, I'm kind of hoping that this is not true at all because this don't even sound real. But hey, nowadays in this generation, bro, you got parents not even caring about what their kids do in school. So I wouldn't even be surprised. Let me know what y'all think about this.
Wow. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let's make sure. All right, cool. That is so disheartening to hear that. Somebody said, I bet what percentage of those kids are Black girls versus Black boys? I bet you the Black girls are reading higher than any other group.
Also, how many of those schools are in Black neighborhoods?
Oh, I bet the
100%.
majority.
100%.
I bet the majority.
Yep.
I bet the majority. I think this is a personal opinion. So I haven't read this anywhere, but I believe that one of the reasons why they are wanting to and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who knows this better than me. I know that they have been talking about for a while creating private schools, right? And then like doing charter schools, getting rid of like the public schools. And so what that will do is folks who can afford education will get a good education, and those who cannot will get whatever is left over, right? And I feel like they're weaponizing education. And so when you look at public schools, they're kind of like being left to the wayside now, unless it's like a pay to play in education now. Either you're going to pay for your kids to get education, or you're going to send them to a public school where nobody really cares about it. Anyways, I think they're pulling funding out of the schools, funding out of education, unless you can pay for it, unless you can send your kid to private school or stay home or hire somebody to teach them. We're probably going to continue to see that. But can someone build wealth without strong reading skills? Like, how can you get a job? What can you do if you can't read, Aisha? What do you think? How important is reading?
Thanks for that question. And reading is important. But I can tell you this: my mom wasn't educated, but she was a business owner. So that I can tell. I can say that sometimes it's not just the reading, but I understand if you're in an advanced country, you need to know how to read so you can sign documents. That's important. But I think it depends, right? But in the United States, for sure, you need to know how to read and write and comprehend what you're reading, because that's also your life on the line. If you sign the wrong documents, thinking one thing, but it's saying something else, and now you're in bind for something that you didn't even understand, right? So for sure, reading is important in our culture here in the United States. And if you don't have formal education per se, like in the Amish community, they only go up to a certain grade, and there's no more education for them. They don't go to advanced learning, and they do just well in their little culture because they have family around them to protect them. So that's important as well. But in our community in America, for sure, you need to know how to read and write and have critical thinking skills. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of trouble if you sign the wrong document and not understanding what you're writing. Signing. That's why it's important.
I think
LaNee, can I just say we also have to distinguish between formal and non-formal education, because there are people who are very educated, but it's not formal education. That came to my mind when Aisha said my mother was a businesswoman, but she was not formally educated. She was extremely educated, maybe just not formally educated.
Not formal. Yeah.
And actually, in terms of life success, the informal education is a better predictor of success than formal education.
That's so true.
Yeah, when you get an A student, they're not going to be necessarily successful in life, but the person who learns other skills outside of just schooling has a higher success rate than the person who was formally educated and did well in formal education. So that's very important.
I think there's a difference between smart and intelligent, as well as book smart and street smart, right? Life smart, I would say. I think like you have your book smart, you got your street smart, and somewhere in the middle is like life smart. Like you know what I'm saying? And everybody does not have to go to school or college to be smart or to be intelligent. You brought up some good points. You veered left and I was about to go right. I'm going to go back left and I'll come back right. I think that one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of this decline in IQ is because of the time that it takes to sit and learn. I see this, I used to see this with my son, right? One, it's itching to get to the technology, but it's what the technology is doing by teaching young people that everything is supposed to be fast. So to sit in a 40-minute classroom and talk about the same thing, or not be able to talk because you have to listen, or not be able to pull out your phone and just give something attention, I think that that is one of one of the biggest reasons that they're failing is the lack of attention, right? Attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and so the ability to sit in a class and learn, or watch a YouTube video, or listen to a lecture, or whatever the case might be, that's getting shorter because they want everything so quick and fast. How do you guys think, or do you think that attention spans getting shorter is a part of this issue, Dominique?
Absolutely. If you can go on social media, you can go on TikTok, and TikTok can tell you in 60 seconds how the story is going to end, or how to do X, Y, and Z. Why would you sit down and read a book that has 300 pages? You know, there is that instant gratification that they have. They can go get it right now, or they can ask ChatGPT, hey, summarize this book. Why am I going to read it when ChatGPT is going to give me all the information? I don't need to sit down and read it. Their attention span is not, everything is so quick with social media. You can get it, you get it instantly. So to sit down and have them go in a classroom or have them read this chapter book is difficult, because they're getting everything right there in their hand in a matter of seconds. Why would they take the time to read a book? Why do they want to sit in a classroom when they can get it right there? I do believe that it plays a big part in it. And that's why we have to find a way to, technology is good. I agree. Technology is good, but we have to balance it out. We have to do something different, or our children are going to end up in trouble. We have the skills and the tools, right? We know how to do it from scratch. They don't. A lot of this stuff they don't have. They don't have the reading skills. They're going to sign their life away and don't realize that they're signing their life away because they're not taking the time to read the contract before they sign it. If they don't have technology, I can just scan ChatGPT real quick, they'll be in trouble. And it's because, I believe, it's because of the attention span. You can get it instantly. Why you want to take the time and read it? Why do you want to take the time to sit in a class? Why do you want to do a workshop? Why would you want to do it when you could do it instantly? So I do believe it plays a part in that.
I think so too. Let's go to another video. We're going to keep having this conversation.
G shit though, we gotta start teaching our kids though, just financial wealth and literacy and all that shit early, because by the time they get to 9th grade, they should be just learning how to start businesses and how to. But they don't really need to know how to read.
Wait, stop.
I ain't gonna say that. I say that respectfully. I'm not saying that in a way to be literate, because you're not supposed to be illiterate, but you can.
What's more important, reading or math?
Math. Told you. Math. I think you could listen to a book on YouTube. You can still obtain the information. You don't have to know how to read. That's not reading and understanding. I believe common sense is better than everything. I'm a common sense nigga. I'd rather have 0 book smarts and common sense, be able to read the room, be able to read life, be able to read people. I try to understand people, you know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, you can listen to a book. I just listen to the 48 Laws of Power.
You gotta read your contract, Els.
You don't have to. You can listen to that too. They got apps you can put it in and it'll read it to you. Are you crazy? It probably will. AI will now. That's what I'm saying. That's how freaky it is.
You don't have to read. Shit gets be told to you.
It'll be so. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like you don't need to know how to read.
Floyd Mayweather.
All these people.
I hate that everybody gets a microphone. I hate that we have to listen to everybody's opinion. I hate that you have coon. I don't even know if he's a coon, but I hate that you have illiterate, ignorant folks walking around talking about you don't even have to read. If nothing else, read your goddamn history. Do you know that they used to kill us for reading? Like, we need to be able to read. There's a reason why. There's this, it's a slam to Black people, but they say, I've heard it many, many times, if you want to hide anything from Black people, put it in a book. Like they expect us not to be able to read. And reading, writing, math, comprehension is how you play this game. It's how you play chess and not checkers. I can see that you're playing checkers by the words that come out of your mouth. You're saying, I play checkers, me over here, red, jump black. I'm a checker player versus a chess player, because you have to be able to read, write, comprehend, do math, and understand in order to live this life and play the game, right? What are your thoughts when you hear this young man? Everybody in here has kids, but this is what basically our children are listening to in society and people listening to. Aisha, what are your thoughts when you hear that person and his thoughts?
When I was listening to him, I was like, well, what is he talking about? And especially if you're in a Western culture where you know that reading and writing is important, because that is how you've been indoctrinated, right? So you have to play that role. If you don't know how to read, like they say, if you want something to be hidden or you don't want them to learn, hide it in a book. You know that is one thing that is being done to you. So it's your duty to make sure you read properly so that you can understand exactly what is going on. But I also understand when he said common sense, I get it. But in your culture here, you need to know how to read and write. You can't put it aside and say ChatGPT will do it for you. What if ChatGPT spits out the wrong information? Then what? Then you can differentiate between what you can't even tell the difference.
You won't even know.
I thought he was wrong, but the common sense part I get when he said, you have to use your common sense, read the room, because that's a very powerful gift to have, to read the room, to understand what's going on, to have situational not an awareness, how to deal with people. I totally understand that part because that's so important. But you also have to know how to read and write. My kids were born here. There is no way I will tell them not to read and write. There's no way, because I know what they're up against. So it's important that they know how to read and write. And I made it a priority, even when I sacrificed to stay home, so I make sure that they get that education that they deserve, so that when they go out there, whether it's a contract they have to read, whatever, they can confidently read it and be able to, comprehend and analyze what they're reading. So yeah, no, I didn't agree with what he was saying.
Okay. So
they're not even mutually exclusive, LaNee. It's not like you gotta either have common sense or be able to read and write. You can read and write and then have common sense.
Common sense.
So yeah. So can I put on my educator hat for a second? There's a reason why children tend to, if they're going to repeat a grade, they tend to repeat at 4th grade. It's because up to 4th grade, they focus on the 3 R's. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. You have to have those 3 things as fundamentals. Those are the baselines for learning everything. You can't learn geography, science, or any history, anything until you can read, write, and do math. Those are the 3 fundamentals. And I remember when I was homeschooling and I was coaching homeschooling parents, I added the 4th R, which was, I called it reasoning, but it was actually logic and critical thinking. So if you did those 4 things, that's it. That's how you homeschool. Just 4 things: reading, writing, arithmetic, which is math, and then teach them how to reason. And then beyond the 4th grade, it doesn't matter what subjects you teach your children, because they have the foundation to be able to go learn other things. So in fact, when we talk about technology, probably don't give your kids technology until at least the 4th grade, where they've learned how to read, write, and reason, and they can do math, basic math.
I want to talk about what Anonymous said. He said, these are C students I was talking about. Joel Santana is an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs are C students. Joel's is not young. Joel Santana is your age, lady. Actually, Joel Santana is 44. I'm 49, about to be 50. So to me, he's young, but not young. But you know what I mean. He's younger than I am. But the truth is, the words that were coming out of his mouth made him sound like he was 12. So it was more of a diss to be like, that young man, like he sound like somebody's little kid. Like he don't sound like a grown up. No grown man should be walking around talking about that. Now let's get to the entrepreneur piece. I know that they say, some of the most paid billionaire entrepreneurs did not go to college, and the ones that did dropped out, right? Or they didn't get good grades. So I know what you're saying is true, but I don't want to put that into the world to make people believe that you don't have to be educated to be an entrepreneur. You can, and you should try, and you should be. Because as an entrepreneur, You have to understand things. You have to budget. You have to understand money. You have to read contracts. You have to send contracts. And if you don't have money to hire lawyers and all these other things, you can't, you have, even when you have a lawyer, you got to read what they say. Even when you have somebody doing your CPA and your tax, you still got to understand the numbers. You got to know what these different things mean. So being an entrepreneur requires reading skills, math skills, like Noma said, they don't have to be formal. You might have to go to college or university to get them, but you need to be able to read, and you need to be able to do math, and you need to be able to understand, so that when you sit and you're talking to somebody, you have to negotiate. You understand what they're saying, and you can communicate back to them to negotiate for yourself. There's just so much that goes into it. I don't want people to walk away thinking, oh, it's, if you're a USC student, you can at least go here and start a business. Nah, you still got to know some stuff. Let's go to our last video, stats, and then we will start shutting down. So let's get to our last video.
Mind you, even a C student has to get at least 60% to get that C.
Yeah. I think we have a last video. Okay, let's do stats then. Let's do some stats.
Why do I need to learn how to read if AI can read for me? Right now, 40% of fourth graders can't read. We're witnessing the collapse of the American education system.
I teach 8th grade history, and I have 110-ish students. 2 of them are reading on grade level right now. 18 of them are at a kindergarten level. 55 of those students are between a 2nd and 4th grade level. We were doing guided notes, supposed to be a real easy day. It was review. They wrote down, Maryland was founded as a safe haven for Catholics. It was on the board. They wrote it down. And before we moved on, I call on a student and I ask, hey, where were the Catholics one more time? And these students, what they do is they look at me, and then they look at their notes, and then they look at the board. They look back at their notes. And some of them never answered me. They never figured out the answer. It was wild. And I kept giving them hints, like rephrasing the question and saying, like, it's in your notes. We just wrote it down. We just wrote it down. Where are the Catholics? It's on the board. And they never got it. They can't read their own notes. And I don't mean their handwriting. I mean, like, they can't make heads or tails of it on the page. These kids have a frightening ability for information to go from their eyes to their hands and not pass through the brain at all. What do we do, y'all? That ship is sailing across the ocean and there is no one at the wheel.
What she described is terrifying. The information goes through their eyes, down through their hands, without passing through their brains. But this isn't an isolated incident. This is nationwide. I looked up the actual numbers. Only 23% of fourth graders can read at a proficient level. Just 23%. Then we have the eighth graders. Only 26% are reading proficiently. After all the reforms, adding technology into the classrooms, and debating about funding, we're now at 40%. We didn't get better. We made it worse.
I've been teaching since 1993. And yes, we have always had kids who struggle to focus. But what's happening now is on a whole other level. Do you remember how it used to feel when the teacher would pull out the cart with the big TV and the VCR attached? Yeah, not anymore. Now I've got kids asking to skip it. They literally can't just sit and watch.
I'm a 90s kid, so I know exactly what she's talking about. When that rinky-dink TV rolled into the classroom, that was the best day ever. But today's kids are overstimulated. TV is not cutting it. When we were growing up, they said we watched too many cartoons. Now kids don't even want cartoons. It's not enough stimulation. They get bored. Kids today are growing up watching Cocomelon and YouTube Shorts, content that's meant to hold attention for seconds at a time. And now we're asking them to sit in a classroom for hours with no screens and no stimulation. Of course, they're going to roam around yelling 6, 7. They're having withdrawal symptoms.
Honey, teaching kids isn't the same anymore. It's just not. Used to be kids would listen to teachers simply because they were teachers. That was the respect of it all. Now, no, honey. I got to keep the kids constantly engaged. Not even just engaged, but almost overstimulated. The candy isn't even working anymore. Giving out candy for positive reinforcement doesn't even work anymore. They don't care about that. Girl, I'm using chimpanzee bananini just to get my kids' attention, just so they'll look at me. Hello, hello. Girl, bye. I got kids saying 6, 7 repeatedly. They don't even know how to spell 6, 7. Catching me doing this mid-lecture, just to see if they're paying attention. You watching? Hello, we there? Girl, it's so bad now. It's so bad.
She said they can't even spell 6, 7. Let me see the stats. Let me do the stats real quick. Okay. I think I had them. I had them a minute ago. The stats. Let me see if I can find stats. Oh, strong reading and comprehension skills are directly tied to higher earning potential. True that. Poor literacy skills are linked to lower income over a lifetime. True that. Financial literacy remains low, with many adults unable to explain basic credit or interest concepts. Yes. Millions of adults in the US read at or below a basic level. National assessments show reading proficiency levels have declined in recent years among students. All right, so in our final go around, looking for the best question I'm going to ask you guys. Here we go. Here's our final question. What is the biggest lesson from this conversation? That's the one I'm going to go with. What is the biggest lesson for this conversation? And what would you tell people to do at this point? Aisha, we'll start with you. This is our final thought, so make sure you tell people where they can find you as well.
The biggest lesson today is this is real. It's happening. And it's happening so fast that it's going to take sacrifice to reverse it. Sacrifice meaning in our families, we have to go back and say, what did I not do that I need to start doing now? And I believe strongly that the family is the number one teacher of the children, the primary educator of the children. No matter what age they are, we can definitely have a family meeting and say, look, listen, this is happening and it's happening too fast. We need to find a way to start reading again together and learning again together as a family. So cover time and do that with our family. Even I myself, I'm saying that now after this show, what I've learned today is that I'm going to go back again to doing those times where we all get a book and read together and share what we've just learned from the book we've just read. Because if we don't do that, before we know it, our kids are going to will be going down that path of only using gadgets for everything and not going back to reading. And it's a sacrifice. Reading is important because we need that to do well in society. You can find me at the Black Business School as one of the coaches there. If you need advice with your insurance or planning for your retirement, I can help with that. And www.aishaverzi.com. Thanks for today.
We need to bring back the reading rainbow. Where is LeVar Burton when you need him? I'm just saying. Nomalanga, go ahead and give us your final thought.
Sorry.
You're on mute.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so my final thoughts are actually very basic because they really don't differ from anything that I say all the time. I think it's very important to homeschool our children. And even if you don't do it full time, do it part time because it will make that difference. Reading should be part of the culture in your home. Start by reading to your children before they can read. So it teaches them a love for character and reading and the stories so that when they get older, that's part of their culture that they read. That's one thing. Then the last thing is just really family time. It's important. Eat together, eat healthy meals, read together. I think like Aisha said, exercise together. And like I said, it's nothing different from what I say all the time. I'm sad to see that some of the things that we have not taken heed of, even though we've been hearing it drummed into us, are now finally showing in a very detrimental way. This is actually interesting that today we're talking about this. I'm going to change my product of the month at themokamokos.com. I've put the link there. I'm going to put, you can also find this course at the Black Business School. I have a course for homeschooling. And again, it applies to whether you're doing it full-time or part-time. But again, I think there's just no excuse to not do that homeschool thing, even if it's just a little bit. You can change the culture in your home. Where you can find me on Facebook. I say it all the time. I am a Facebooker. Today, if anybody inboxes me and asks me for links, I will send you links to some very useful resources if you're interested in homeschooling. I am a homeschooler through and through because I believe in it, and I think Black people need it like they need oxygen. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Ms. Nomalanga. And like I said, you can also go find me. I'm one of the instructors at the Black Business School. I have a course there that teaches you how to homeschool. I have another course, how to teach you how to emancipate yourself from full-time work to entrepreneurship, that I actually did. It's been now more than 10 years, but everything in there is still relevant. I taught that course with Dr. Boyce Watkins. And then the last thing is you can also find me. I have my own YouTube channel. It's Nomalanga Msauli Moses.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Dominique, final thoughts.
I'm going to agree with both ladies, especially Nomalanga. Like, I really think that we have to get back to the basics. So Nomalanga always says multi-generational living, and I say community, same difference. When we do that, it helps in every aspect. It helps financially. It helps, in terms of what we're eating, because you have somebody that's able to prepare food. So we're working collectively for the whole, right? Our kids are educated. So maybe you're not able to homeschool, but they have homeschool cohorts or different things that we can do. But I think that is the difference, because one, not only are you educating your child, but you can dictate what you want to give your child. So if we want to make sure that they have financial literacy, guess what? When you homeschool, you can do that. And I understand that it's not everybody can't do it, but there's ways that we can do it if we come together. So one thing that I will always say is we need our community. We have to get back to the basics. And until we get back to the basics, we're going to forever be in this rut, in this situation where we're dealing with things financially. Our children are behind just because we're just so overwhelmed with everything that we have going on. But when we come together collectively, then we can operate as one, and everybody benefits from that. So again, I am Dominique Morgan. I'm the managing partner of the Whitmore Group. We educate, empower, and equip individuals and businesses to build wealth through real estate. And we can help you purchase anywhere throughout the United States. So if you want to find me, I'm on all social media platforms at the Whitmore Group. And if you want to keep up with what we're doing, the latest and greatest of the Whitmore Group, you can go to our website, thewhitmoregroup.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The biggest lesson that I took from today is that you're never too young or too old to learn. The Gen Z's age is 14 to 29, and we focus a lot on like 14 to 18, but 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, they need the help too. And it's never too late to self-correct. If you see something that somebody's doing younger than my mom gave me a book. Mind you, it was smut. But she gave me this book, and I could not get past the first 2 chapters. I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to read. I can't now. And then she was like, just keep going. Just get to chapter 3 or 4. And I was like, oh, my God. So I got to chapter 3 or 4, and I was like, oh, this is good. And I have since read that first book like 7 times. I have the lady's whole catalog. I've read most of her books 3, 4, or 5 times. And reading those books is what got me into reading all of these books. I have a full library. I have over 300 books. Tiara recommended a book to me the other day, and I was like, I think I have that book. I went to my library, pulled it off the shelf. I was like, I do have it. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was able to pull this book right here, Blue Ocean Strategy, for one of my clients. I have, what do you call this? All the acquisition books from Alex Hermosi, all of the secret books from Russell Brunson. Like, they say readers are leaders. Even if you don't do it until later in life, read to your kids. Give them something that they like. It doesn't have to be Malcolm X's. Give them something that they like, to get them to open their brain up first and get them like used to reading and excited about reading, and then switch in something else that might be educational. But that's my lesson. But that's my takeaway. It's never too late. It's never too late. And if you see somebody struggling, reach out and give them a hand. I'm Dr. LaNee. I am the Brilliance to Bank strategist. You can find me at the Brilliant Strategist. That literally is every single link that I have going on, from strategy sessions to freebies to assessments. Dominique, I hear you have our Black fact for the day.
I do. So because we're talking about kids, I found a fun one. So mine is on Lonnie Johnson. He accidentally created the super soaker in the 1980s while working on a high-powered jet pump experiment at home. The water streamed so strong and consistent that he realized an entertainment potential. The side discovery became one of the best-selling toys of all times, earning over $1 billion in sales and redefining the toy industry. The bigger win is that Lonnie Johnson is a NASA engineer and has over 100 patents, proving innovation often happens when problem solving meets curiosity.
Yeah, he had to sue them to get his money because they didn't want they. I think when he first created it, he was working at the toy store, but they didn't have trademark or he had to patent it, and so he had to fight to get his rights. And he just got his money. I can't remember what it was, but it was some big money that they had to pay him for that.
Yep.
And so thank you for sharing that. I can't get through the day without giving out happy birthday shout outs to my home girl, Constance Carter, who turned a big 50 yesterday, as well as Lala had a birthday as well. And so happy birthday to both of those queens in this month of February. Just look, lots of good things are happening here at Fly Nubian Money. And so to close out our day today, this was not about, and it is not about blaming kids, right? Or schools, or it's about being accountable. It's about seeing that something is happening and stepping up and saying, not in my house, not with my child. If literacy is declining, we have to respond, because reading is not optional in business. Understanding contracts is not optional. Protecting your money is not optional. We have to take education seriously at home and in our communities. Thank you to our queens for being here. Thank you to everyone watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Go out, be blessed, stay Black, and be one. We'll see you here tomorrow, same time, same place. If you miss us, you can text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, or check us out on Spotify. Have a blessed day, everybody. See you tomorrow.